everybody, welcome to episode 20 of the Vassals of Kingsgrove Great Linear Song of Ice and Fire reread, which takes us to the 3rd of April to 5th of May 299 AC, which is basically when Stannis starts besieging Storm's End. In today's episode, we're going to be covering Arya 6, Jon 2, Dany 1, Cat 2, and Tyrion 6 from George R. R. Martin's A Clash of Kings. And as normal, we will be spoiling all events from A Song of Ice and Fire and potentially preview chapters from T-Well, but not the show Game of Thrones, partly because I have not been watching and have managed to stay spoiler-free. Yay! Joining me today, my name's Bina007 on the forums of A Podcast of Ice and Fire, which is where you can find us all. Joining me today, I have Brett.
Oh, Whiteraven on the forums. Number one.
Don't get too ahead of yourself. It's only because you're summarising the first chapter.
And the last.
We also have Sarah from Australia. Sarah.
We did.
Hi, this is Sarah Lady Weaver on the forums.
We also have Hannah.
Hey, it's Hannah, Shadowbaby on the forums.
We have Drew.
This is Drew, Wargasm on the forums.
Chance.
This is Chance, Fire and Bud on the forums.
No, it's Chance. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you.
It's Matt. Matt.
Hey.
I'm assuming that Matt's at work, and whenever we get one word lagged answers is because he has to someone's like come by his office and he has to pretend he's not podcasting. And we have Awesome Pauls.
Hey, Sir General on
That's
the forums, eating nuggets in real life.
Nice VSG reference. Okay, so before we get into the action, I'm trying to remember who I asked this to, but I believe that, Sarah, am I right in thinking that you've never gone through how you got into the books and whatnot?
No, I've never been through how I got into the books. I've been through how I got into VOK, though.
Okay, cool. So do you want to tell
Love the
us
books.
how you've got into the books? Is this your first reread and favourite and least favourite character?
Okay, so I got into the books through the show. So I started watching the show during the break between season 3 and season 4. And after that break, I binge watched all of it and started watching it again for the TV series and made my mom watch it with me. Then I started reading the book and got into it that way. And this is my first reread for it all.
Cool.
And with my favorite character, I really struggled to figure out who I'd call my favorite, but at the moment, I think it's Jaime. So rock on Jaime
Good
Lannister
choice.
after your redemption arc, that is. And my least favorite, thanks, Bina. I'd say my least favorite might be Cersei, or at least reading her, because I think she's a complete and utter cray-cray person, like drunk and crazy.
Speaking of drunk and crazy, today the smoking light is on and the sponsored drink is Tokai, if anyone's... Because Varley's at work, I feel I have to sort of... There you go. I need to sort of make her, tapping on the drinking glass noise and tell everyone what's going on.
That's okay, I've got a
You got eyes.
mojito, so...
I love it, Drew. This is how we roll. Okay, so... After a very intense set of January, February, March chapters where a lot of stuff was going on, we're now entering a bit of Clash and Kings where everything's a bit spaced out. And actually in the next few episodes, you're going to see these chapters where you actually have a few months action spread out and then people are catching up. And so we've chosen to place those chapters in linear order kind of at the point at which you're caught up. That probably doesn't make sense, but you'll figure it out when we get there. We left the last episode of the reread on Tyrion 5, which was March 28th, with Tyrion laying traps for all the potential traitors in King's Landing. And we pick up this episode with Arya 6, which takes place running up to April 3rd, which is 6 chapters later in the published order. And I believe it is Whiteraven with the summary.
Yes, ma'am. So it starts with Arya contemplating her new realization of what fear is. She's been passing the days as a prisoner of Gregor's traveling troupe of terrifying tools. We realize that Gregor doesn't care for anyone or anything. He just randomly picks someone out every day and they're tortured and killed in front of everyone, except for Gendry because he has skills, needed skills. And,
Wait. Did you just say Gendry?
I did?
Is it not Gendry? Have I been saying that wrong all these
No,
years?
it's like a gentrification. It's Gendry.
Oh, shit. Okay, carry on.
No, it's
All right.
Gendry. It is Gendry.
All right, Gendry it is. Yeah, I've been mispronouncing everything else, so why not that too?
It's That's okay. You're royalty, so.
Oh, am I?
Well, you're the Maple
No,
Prince.
I'm a brother of royalty.
Right.
So she says that she's no water dancer because Syria would have not allowed these people to die. Do you guys think that Jake and Hagar and his group fell in line with these people, or he's just at Harrenhal? Because Arya would have noticed if she was with these guys, right?
I sort of feel he's at Harrenhal already, but I don't know.
Right, like they fell in
I
with
think
Tywin's
she-
army.
Yeah.
Oh, they were the Bloody Mummers. They might have been with the Bloody Mummers. Sorry. Anyway,
I thought they
She
were
ha-
with the
I
Bloody
don't like
Mummers.
that name.
Yeah, you're right, Sarah, and it's because the only reason I know is because I've done a bit of reading for the next episode, and when you get to Arya 7, they are with the Bloody Mummers, and that's when
Yeah,
she
they come
kind of
in with the Bloody
realizes that they're there. Yeah.
all right. So she hates herself for being weak and finds out that bravery will just get you killed quicker. We see that there's some Ares supporters in this group of people that say that none of this would have ever happened when Ares was reigning as king, which kind of weird, but interesting. They're headed toward Harrenhal to Tywin Lannister, and women get taken every night and are used, I guess. And I have a question. Why do you think Arya wasn't taken? Do you think it's because like she's dirty and smelly, or it
Maybe
just seems strange?
just other women to hand, and she's not obviously yet a woman, maybe? I don't know.
I still feel like some of the guys in his crew would be.
It could be that she's still a girl.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Doesn't really
Some of the
seem to
guys
stop
in his
them.
crew don't care.
I think it's more of a question in Arya 7 when she's like cleaned up and,
True.
you know, more of a serving wench, but again, maybe just youth, or maybe I don't know. I mean, I think the real answer is probably it just doesn't serve George R. R. Martin's narrative character arc for her yet, right? But
Well, yeah, it would be really weird if that happened.
yeah, but
Anyway.
not. But and it's interesting. We can get into this maybe later. But whenever he talks about sexual violence against children, it's usually off screen, like it's someone remembering it from their childhood or someone relating a story about it. He rarely goes there, and I can quite understand why, as an author, you might not want to put yourself into that kind of first-person
Yeah.
description.
It's a good thing Sansa isn't with her because I don't think she'd survive this little journey.
No.
No.
So anyway, Arya is showing off her observation skills. She knows that knowing the men is very important to survival. She hates pretty much all of the mountain. No, I'm not gonna say pretty much. She hates all the mountains men and adds a few of them to her list. She is taken aback by how large Harrenhal is, and the talk is that it's haunted, and it definitely sounds like the description is of a place that seems like it would be haunted. They are washed and turned into servants for the castle. Arya takes a new name of Weasel. Weasel, really, Arya? It's fucking stupid. So she tries to work in the stables instead of the kitchens so as to make escape easier, but that just gets her hit and a worse job for speaking up. And she goes off to do Wheeze's bidding. And Wheeze is a character that has a magical nose that can smell things like defiance, pride, and disobedience. And he tells them that because he has this magical nose, he only wants to smell fear from them. Otherwise, he will punish them. And that's pretty much it. Not a lot happens. It's more just, hey, look how bad Gregor and his men are. And we get introduced to like the Tickler and all them. And they're just torturing people and getting no information at all out of them.
Basically, all the future candidates to be offed by Jack and Hagar.
Yeah.
Basically.
Who do we think is worse, Gregor or Ramsay?
Gregor.
Gregor.
Why?
Ramsay.
Yeah, there we go. We got some.
Because
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Why? Like
Yep.
they're
But
both
Gregor-
people.
Gregor's just when he's really annoyed, and Ramsay's more being malicious and is doing it purposefully. And I think Gregor's more he suffers major migraines, and I guess that'd make you really, really angry and
make my head
grumpy the
hurt.
whole time. And then he
And-
loses it and kills people.
And Gregor is more tightly held on a leash by Tywin, while Ramsay's kind of just given free rein by Woos.
Bumper.
Yeah, I agree. Like, Gregor seems more
Oh.
like that meathead jock in school who's a bully, but Ramsey's a straight up psychopath. Like,
Wow, you had some fucked up jocks in school.
Jeez, yeah. Jeez. I don't know. I mean, I would rather be one of Gregor's victims, I guess, than Ramsay's, though, just because it would probably be over quick. It'd be gruesome, but I'd end up like
Exactly.
smashed or something. Whereas Ramsay would just prolong it. He'd be like, "Oh, You like your skin? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna become a new wall covering in the bathroom. It's gonna be awesome.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
the point, isn't it? With Gregor, I think it's a sort of unthinking, quick, brutal violence.
Right.
Whereas with Ramsay, he delights in torture. And so that's just a whole category separate. Like, the end's going to be
Yeah.
the same, but getting there is going to be so much worse. But
I
would...
think, yeah, it's the level of intelligence that makes it worse, because Gregor doesn't seem that smart, and Ramsay is. So it's like you're smart enough to really know better, and also smart enough to make it so much worse.
I think a
Right,
far
well-
more interesting discussion is actually, why does Tywin... I mean, it says a lot for Tywin that he knows everything that he's capable of, but still keeps him around. Like,
Because he's a true Machiavellian.
ugh, but he's like a WMD. Like, okay, Tywin basically has him on a tight leash, but really, how much control do you truly ever have? And I think the next Arya chapter shows that a little bit. I mean, it's quite a nasty thing.
Yeah, even when
Bina,
he's
but then
sorry. Go ahead.
then again, Bina, with Tywin having the mountain, he can just say if he goes off and does something heinous like killing Princess Elia and killing Aegon, then he can just say, oh no, he went crazy, not that's actually what I wanted and I told him to do it. He can just claim the mountain went off on his own and did it.
And I've never really understood that, because, okay, so on the one hand, it gets him out of moral complicity, but on the other hand, it makes him look weak. Like, oh, well, I wasn't strong enough to control my henchmen. So actually, I'm not sure it's as convenient as it sounds as an excuse.
Maybe we're looking at it from the wrong angle. Maybe he's just... Oh, go ahead. Hello?
I was just going to say that I think Tywin does this all, like he did it with Tyrion when he sent him to be the Hand, because everything was going badly, and he sent Tyrion because then he'd have a scapegoat if things went really bad, and he could just step in and everything would be better. And he's kind of doing that with the Mountain too. He sends him out and he does all this terrible shit. He's like, oh, that wasn't me, that was him, now I'm fixing it or whatever. So it's easier for him to have someone else to be the scapegoat built in.
There's probably a few instances where he doesn't particularly care what he did afterwards, but he's aware of it. Like, he didn't order him to. Like, when he killed Elia and Rhaenys, and he talked about it with Tyrion later, he even has that little line where he says, come on, you can't think that I told him to do that. Like he specifically says that to Tyrion. So I know he expects some things, but other times he's legitimately surprised. Like, oh, shit.
I just told him to kill her, not,
Not rape her and kill her. What?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
For a dude that drowned children in a mine, even he was kind of like taken aback by that.
Yeah,
Well, because he didn't have to see it. He heard it, but
Well, no, he had to carry part of it out to present it to Robert, so he did see it.
oh no, I meant
I
the
saw the
drowning
aftermath,
of the
not the-
children of Castamere.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, they're in their own little tomb.
Yeah, and well, there's also the fact that Gregor doesn't seem ambitious of any kind. He's not trying to get like power or move ahead in life. All he wants to do is, I don't even know what Gregor wants. He's just kind of a violent person. So, but meanwhile, Ramsay is killing people who get in his way of what he wants, and Gregor's more the tool. Ramsay is the evil like creature who does what he wants.
Gregor's a demon and Ramsay's a devil.
Essentially, yeah.
Gosh, yeah.
I guess it's like if you wanted to make it a math problem, like, did Gregor do enough bad things over the course of his longer life than the really bad things that Ramsay did in his small time in power? Because, I mean, he's not making it. So you kind of compare the super duper like torture stuff that he did to the lifetime of terror that Gregor did.
Okay, well, has anyone else got anything on Arya 6, or we can move on to John 2, because this is one of
I will say that Weasel is a stupid name and Arya should have been better. I expect more out of her.
When they show up at Harrenhal, the image in the show, when they show Harrenhal, they're looking at her and Gendry and everybody, I was like, holy shit, that's huge. And I hadn't even been able to fathom that in my mind. And then when I read the world book, it seemed like even more immense than they had it on the show. And just...
Yeah, it wasn't big
I've
enough
never
in the
been
show.
anywhere in the world that the Taj Mahal or anything that with something that's that crazy huge, and it's just so hard to comprehend,
Because actually, in a later chapter, Arya says it's 3 times as large as Winterfell. The dimensions really are amazing.
I can see why it would seem haunted. I mean, they're never going to have enough people in there to fill the place up, so it's always going to have these giant empty areas that just nobody's ever in.
Right.
And isn't
Well,
just
and
like
like,
isn't just like the gatehouse bigger than the Great Keep of Winterfell?
Hair in the Black was definitely compensating.
I was gonna say Hair in the Black, like, he's Ironborn, right? So you have to
Yeah.
think it's probably a situation where they had a lot of thralls or slaves, building it, and probably not the greatest work conditions. And that's also like a common connotation is that we have in our own histories with places being haunted. So
That's the great thing
I think,
about
a reason.
slavery is labor costs are cheap. So yeah.
Vassals of Kingray's public service announcement. VOK is not pro-slavery.
No, but if you're gonna build a big house, get slaves.
Of course,
if
of course,
you're
we're
gonna
against
use, like,
slavery.
build a big house.
You can spend it on materials then.
Of course, we're against slavery, but thralls get stuff done, and then their kids are free.
Being against slavery is like being against wearing fur. It's all well and good in theory until someone gives you a really beautiful full-length mink coat, and then it's like, oh, but it feels so nice. And the little animals are like already dead.
Right. It's like Joan Rivers said. She's like, this coat's been places where it never would have been allowed alive.
Thraldom is like equal opportunity slavery. It's a good thing.
I don't know. It's kind of weird actually because it's really struck me reading these Arya chapters at Harrenhal that I'd always thought of slavery in these books as being kind of Essos and the slaves that Dany frees or doesn't. And it was only when I was really reading about how everyone comes into Harrenhal and there's their process and okay, you have that skill, you go off and be a smith, and you have that skill, off you go to be a baker. You're a woman, we're just going to fuck you or make you mop steps or whatever. And it's like...
Probably both. Bina,
probably both. When I really thought, my God, these people, Hot Pie, Gendry, Arya, they're all proper slaves.
Yeah.
And, it's just horrific. It's kind of weird. I don't know why I'd made this weird dissociation in my mind. But yeah, it's just grim. And once again, Tywin, he lets all that happen. He's just, I don't know, like you can say, I guess in these rereads, we criticize people like Jon Arryn and Ned a lot for being too honorable to play the game and therefore dead. But if this is what it takes to play the game, basically enslaving people, keeping basically a sort of psychopath on the register and letting him get away with whatever. I don't know. I'd rather be Ned, honestly.
It's like
Go ahead.
It's like any feudal system is you only have the illusion of freedom, but you are not really free. You are in chains in your station in life.
Yeah, like
Period.
serfdom in Russia. And I guess it's just weird to think that's not that. That's quite recent in a sense.
It's a hypocrisy,
Yeah, and yet all these Westerosi people can be like, oh, isn't it terrible? So Jorah Mormont, let's banish him because he's such a ignoble man as to sort of conduct himself with slavery just to get some money to pay his debts. And you just think, well, look how easy it was for you to get slavery in Westeros. Look how little kind of societal breakdown it took for you to basically just imprison your own people. And yeah. I guess I viewed Essos and its otherness very differently on this reread in the light of reading this properly. Because I just thought of them kind of loosely as prisoners, not as slaves. But they're there to give their labor, not just as prisoners. It's horrific. Drew, sorry, you were going to say something on the chapter?
Oh, I was just going to say that, Tywin chooses to, use fear, not love, whereas Ned actually, has the respect of his people and everything in his home base and whatnot. And, it's a conscious decision on Tywin's part to not rule through that. So, Gregor is just a tool to be able to impart, fear amongst his people and further his own gains that way.
He has some kind of low, like, evil cunning, I think, when I think it's when Arya is in where they overhear one of his men tell the story. Huh?
He had that. Never mind. Keep going.
Yeah, he wasn't actually there. It was one of his men telling the story about how they like raped that innkeep's daughter and then made him.
Wow, how is this cunning?
Not cunning. I said evil cunning. Like he's got some type of evil manipulation instead of just smash, kill, and fuck. I guess. Like,
I was thinking.
Gregor's alignment is.
Yeah, the dad said she wasn't a whore. Gregor said she is now. And then when they all like quote unquote paid the innkeep, they made him make change for it because they said it wasn't worth it. Like he's got some level of like, cunning sounds like a positive connotation. Put like a worse word.
A
He's got
better
some-
example would be when the
Economic
scouts
market
don't see
value.
any.
Yeah, that one.
Huh?
You're gonna say the scouts, like where he keeps giving them another pair of eyes until they see something.
Well, that's what he suggests. And the next guy will have 4 eyes, and if that guy doesn't, then the next guy will have 6 eyes.
It's
Is
darkly
Gregor
clever.
smart enough? Is Gregor smart enough to know that they don't work when they're not attached to the person?
Okay, so I think it's just you, Sarah. Okay, do you want to just go ahead and read your John 2 summary, and then I'll just drop it in?
Okay, try not to laugh too hard. I tried to make it funny.
Awesome, I love it.
The Ranging has come across their 4th abandoned town, White Tree Village, an ancient weirwood with a trunk 8 wide, or for normal people, 2 meters 40. Its canopy covers the entire village, 4 dilapidated one-room houses, and a sheepfold, aka the sheep pen. John and Georg bond with their story time about their dads believing that you can't lie in front of a heart tree, and that the old gods are like Santa and know if you've been bad or good, and whether or not you're lying. Because John is really into his emo phase, he picks up a human skull out of the weirwood's mouth, which is a gaping hole large enough to eat a sheep. Under the skull, among ashes and bits of bone, John sees a smaller skull. John does what all normal people do and gives Mormont the skull. The old bear wants to be like a child of the forest and talk to dead people, specifically wildling skulls. He just wants to get to know the free folk better, learn about their culture, burial rites, and find out where Mance Rayder is. John is depressed because his brothers keep calling him names. Who cares if bastard sword for a bastard is completely accurate? Longclaw is a hand and a half Valyrian steel bastard blade that Pommel is now ghost. Mormont sends his men of the Night's Watch in pairs to search the houses, and Giant, secretly Monkey Man, is sent up the weirwood while Mormont, being such a great teacher, buddies up Dolores, Ed, and John so they can pretend the world hates them together. Sam calls himself a craven but is secretly a badass because every day he is becoming braver while his brothers are becoming more fearful. Sam is also super productive and is spending his free time teaching ravens to talk. He then sends a raven off to Maester Aemon to keep him posted. Ghost and the Black Brothers foragers aren't very successful hunting game because something is out there.
Very, very cool. I'm glad you got to do that. That was cool. Over to everyone else on John 2.
Since we're talking about the weirwood, John's like, "Oh, I heard that you can't tell a lie in front of a heart tree." That seems like something that's pretty easy to test out. So it's weird that they wouldn't just be like, "Yeah, my member's like a foot long. I guess that's not true."
Yeah, I know who my mom is. Or...
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if there's like some kind of history of like people getting punished for lying in front of them or something like that. So everybody just thinks you can't lie in front of them.
There's always something worse about offences when they're committed in a holy place, like the murder of Sir Thomas à Becket, but in the church or whatever. So, it's like that, isn't it? It's seen as this sort of spiritual thing, being in a Godswood. So don't desecrate it by lying.
Right. Like,
Right,
put
you're-
your hand on the Bible and raise your hand. I
Yeah.
swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Well, yeah,
Nobody would
you're
ever
like
lie if they said that.
No, never. Perjury doesn't exist, but yeah, like it's just you're in the presence of the god, so you should be earnest or whatever. And that's also kind of something that the children, when they and the first men, kind of stopped being when they stopped the wars and everything. Like maybe that was something that was started so that way the children could keep tabs on men.
Sure.
I also kind of enjoy the sort of horror feeling that everything is abandoned around here. There are no animals in the woods. The village is deserted. The only thing that's really left that's kind of alive are the trees. And even then, they're the silent kind of centennials, just kind of watching over nothing.
Sentinels.
Oh shit. Yeah, that's what I said.
So back to the chapter. Gior says that I wish I'd asked them why they burned their dead before they were all gone. And John thinks to himself, I know why they burned their dead. Of course they do. Didn't they just figure it out?
Right.
So it makes me think maybe Gior is kind of a dummy. I don't know.
That's kind of strong.
Well, I don't know. It seems pretty obvious to me. I guess it's because I'm reading the books and not just living out my life. But if John can see it, anybody should be able to.
So Sarah says, can someone talk about Sir Malador Locke and how he describes wildlings as, quote, raiders and murderers, the lot of them, end quote, where most of the Night's Watch are murderers, thieves, and rapists.
Right.
Good point. In no position to throw stones, mate.
Well, yeah, my only note on this chapter, which I kind of, shot last one, was that Dolores Ed sounds Canadian.
A.
Hey.
I'm kind of surprised they used
a
Dolores.
Oh.
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you think he's like a super smart ass, or he's really, really dumb and says like surprisingly enlightened things through his dumbness? Because I didn't catch it really the first time, and then the first time I listened to Roy Dotrice like read his voice, I thought he was just like this really dumb guy who doesn't realize he's saying smart, funny things. So I had it twisted in my head, and I've talked to everybody else, and they seem to think that like he knows he's a smart ass, like he's a witty, quick talker.
Or he's just, he's asking A every time just to make sure that people are still with him, following his path of logic. A?
Everyone sounds a few IQ points lower when Roy Dotrice reads them.
How
Just saying.
dare you?
I couldn't take it. I had to turn it off like half a chapter in.
I agree.
That hurts my heart.
When he made the Lannisters Welsh, it was all over for me. Couldn't take it seriously after that.
He had me at Petire.
Oh, his sex scene voices are the best. I love it.
Whatever
It's so
does it for
fun.
you.
It's entertaining. It's not erotically entertaining, but it'll make you laugh.
Anything more on John too? I feel compelled to ask.
Nah.
Okay. Cool. See, this is the problem with John, isn't it? No one can muster up the enthusiasm. Okay, so after that tedious whine through John 2 on April 21st, we move to Dany 1 on April 22nd. So this is actually in the published order just before the John chapter. And actually it just shows, I think one of the things that has struck me doing the linear reread is that the Dany and John chapters, kind of like in linear terms, they come into this book very late on. And so they're kind of always playing catch up. So in reality, we don't actually get a Dany chapter till we're well over a third of the way through the book, which is, I think, sort of interesting. But anyway, on to Dany 1, which is Hannah, I believe.
Yep. Okay. We begin with Dany reflecting on the comet and what the Dothraki remaining with her name it, Shirak Kia, the bleeding star. They claim it's a bad omen, but she remembers that it first appeared on the night she burned Khal Drogo and her dragons, quote, awakened, end quote. With queenly confidence, she decides it is a cosmic herald declaring her coming into her kingdom and showing her path to such. But when she shares this with her naysaying handmaids, they tell her it leads into the Red Waste, a dead and terrible place. She plays it cool, telling them that that's the way they must go, but privately she knows it's the only way she can go, as she's boxed in on all sides by enemies, including ass-face newly appointed Khal Pono and his Khalasar cutting off any access to Slaver's Bay. Jorah and Rokoro point out that even though he was nice to her while he was Drogo's he was the first to abandon her when shit hit the fan. And we finally get a head count on how many people she has left with her. She estimates it's around 100, 90%, 96% of whom are women, old sick men, young boys. So with no viable roads, they strike out southeast and follow the comet. Days and weeks pass with each leg of the trip. Horses and people drop dead around her and her company. Food and water begin to run low in short order, and no game and only small stagnant pools of sulfur water can be found in the vast desert. Dany knows she must remain faithful and be the strength her Khalasar lacks. She stupidly almost lets her dragon starve to death, because even though they are fire-made flesh, she waits until the last moment to put it together that they'd probably like their meat cooked. Because it's not totally obvious that a fire-breathing mythical creature would like charred meat instead of sloppy raw horse sinew. And that's only after she has a facepalm moment, remembering one of the few details Viserys Ass had right. Dragons and men are the only beings in the world who like their meat cooked. So then one night she tells a fun campfire story to her blood riders about Aegon and his sisters and their dragons, and ultimately names her own little winged snake babies. The green Rhaegal after her splendid brother, Viserion, the cream and gold one, after her other brother because even though he was a monstrous shit who threatened to have her raped by 100,000 screamers and give her an impromptu abortion, he was still her brother. And finally, the black one is Drogon for her sun and stars. So the dragons begin to pack on pounds and gobble up horse meat like a fray at a pie convention, and all is saved. Except it's a song of ice and fire, and as the dragons gain their strength, literature's most notorious serial killer strikes again, and Dorea loses her own strength until she cannot go on. Dany won't leave her, though, because Dorea tutored her in Lisa's patent bump and grind so your man stops taking you from behind sex tricks. So Dany plays nursemaid until she eventually gives up the ghost. After that, it's pretty grim for a while. And then Dany's defiant faith starts cracking under the hot, relentless sun. She begins to doubt that the gods and Comet are both mocking her. Conveniently, the very next day, her outriders report back to her that there's a city ahead. They find what they eventually name Veas Teloro, City of Bones, a white mass of desolation and abandon. Her pesky handmaidens warn her that it's a city for ghosts, and Dany is like, fuck that, I have dragons. Dragons solve everything. They find fruit and water and post up there to regain their collective strength. As Dany is finishing a bath, Jorah comes into her tent to hit on her and ends up telling her his entire life story when she simply just asked about his ghost. He tells her about his first marriage to a Glover, which was arranged and not spectacular, and how his wife died after a number of miscarriages. By then, his dad had taken the black and never come back, so he was the Lord of Bear Island. And when old Robbie and Ned came a-knocking for bannermen to squash Balon and his rebellion, he goes down to Pike and earns his knighthood. And King Robert holds a tourney at Lannisport to celebrate. Yay! He becomes taken with Lanesi Hightower of Old Town, and after he scores in the tourney, he goes to Lord Leighton and tries to see if he can score his daughter's hand. They marry, and he sails her to his glorified log cabin in the Bay of Ice. He notes that the honeymoon sea voyage was the only 2 weeks of happiness the marriage would yield. Being the rich bitch that she is, she doesn't like country life and the bare necessities lifestyle Chateau Mormont has to offer. So he pisses all his money away trying to keep her smiling and spreading her legs for him. When that runs out, he tells Dany, I did some shit I'm not proud of. And as Ned Stark came to punish him, he fled like a pathetic coward and becomes a sellsword. Lanesi ends up leaving him to be queen concubine for some associate fool with deep pockets. Dany inquires what she had looked like, and Jorah creepily says, well, she looked like you. And that explains a lot of his pervy behavior to Dany, as she realizes he has a huge raging man Woody for her. She imagines what that would be like and isn't feeling it, so she has a sex dream about Drogo instead. Following that, she sends her co's out to find what can be found in the Red Waste. Ricoro is sent due south, Aggo southwest. Drogo will follow the comet southeast to return after a time, telling her there's not much going on out there in the seemingly unending red expanse. Ricoro does have one interesting anecdote. He saw dragon bones so big he swears he rode through its jaws. And Aggo found 2 more dead cities. One had a ring of skulls on iron pikes surrounding its entrance. They're about to give up on Drogo coming back when, again, in dramatic convenience, he does. And he's not alone. He's found the great city of Karth, and he has in tow Pyat Pri, a self-proclaimed super warlock, Zaro Zoan Doxos, a.k.a. Hedonism Bot from Futurama, one of the 13, Merchant Prince of Karth, and a woman in a lacquered red mask who identifies herself as Quaithe of the Shadow, come to see the dragons and their mother. And Dany calls down to them from the whitewashed walls of her refuge that they shall seek no further, for behold, she is the unburnt mother of dragons, yada, 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 titles, and they have found her and her hellfire kin.
Nicely done.
Very nicely done.
Thank you.
So I have a question on this one. When did Dany stop breastfeeding her dragons?
When her milk dried up, man.
But if they keep suckling, then she killed. I mean, Lysa's evidence of this. Like, you keep going as long as you're feeding that way. Is maybe when they started to burn her that they were like, she's like, okay, this needs to stop.
It might have something to do with Miri Mazdor's little magical hysterectomy.
Yeah, I could do it. Yeah.
Well, if a baby stops breastfeeding, they dry up. Maybe it's because the baby wasn't there, like manipulating it. Because just a dragon's mouth, like a pump won't do it. Like you actually need to actually breastfeed to keep breastfeeding. Otherwise, it will dry up. So maybe the dragon's mouth was more like a pump and less like a baby.
Dragons are like breast pumps.
Only when they're little, though.
Right. Once the teeth come in, it's all bets are off.
And Sarah also makes the point that your milk could just dry up from lack of nutrition on the road as well.
Yeah.
Like, even regardless of whether you have a dragon at your breast.
Dany's people and her horses are all dying in the Red Waste on their march, which is a great parallel to Jon in his storyline, because the men of the Night's Watch are soon going to be suffering from a very similar fate, but instead of it being from the heat of the desert, theirs will be from the snow and the others and the Whites chasing them. And also, Dany is more worried for the lives of her dragons than her own life. They are already synonymous with her family, which fits with the Targaryen mindset that they are the blood of dragons.
Lyness Hightower is awful.
That is a fucked up story. I don't even understand why the Lord would even let her marry him. Maybe she was like draining his coffers. He's like, yes, please take this gold suck
Yeah.
away. And it's also surprising to me that she's just like still overseas and she never like decided to go back to her father.
She's like a video game. Insert coin to continue.
So I put in my notes here, right up at the beginning, when she's talking about the comet being a good omen for her, because it first appeared to her the night she burned Drogo, and her dragons awakened, is the language that George chooses to use there. And I love that choice because to me it speaks of like prophecy and the fact that both the dragons and the Targaryens never really died off or go extinct, but they were just sleeping to be reborn for their destiny. Is the only not ridiculous thing I have to contribute.
I have a ridiculous thing to contribute, and I think it's because I've been catching from Battlestar Galactica, because Drew's doing his BSG cast, and it just reminded me of when President Roslin decides to kind of split the fleet because she wants to go back to rescue this particular object that she's seen in this perhaps prophetic dream. And so she puts huge amounts of lives at risk because she believes this is her destiny and no one on this kind of very scant evidence. And I feel the same is true of this, right? I mean, Dany, by all rational accounts, doesn't really have the right to lead people who follow her blindly and to whom she should be providing guidance and nutrition and safety on this hopeless quest of meandering after a comet. And one
It's
of
a leap
her
of faith.
and one of her beloved handmaidens dies. Like, she pays the price. I mean, it's the equivalent of if in BSG if Starbuck had died or something. And I think it's, these are both strong women, strong leaders. We don't often get strong female leaders in fantasy and sci-fi. And yet, in both cases, they've done something that is kind of irrational, questionable, and as yet, arguably, in A Song of Ice and Fire, hasn't really paid off, unless you think the House of the Undying is the payoff here. But at a huge human cost. I mean, I think it's really early evidence that Dany is not going to be the kind of good leader that maybe we thought at this stage of the books. At this stage of the books, I really thought she was going to be, turn into the classic fantasy great redemptive leader. But she's pretty ruthless even from now. Like, she wants to do something, she's going to do it. So Viserys gets given the hard time because he's a selfish brat. But how is what Dany does here any less selfish and spoiled?
Well, I mean, Targs are kind of, the whole reason why the Targaryens still exist is based on the whims and thoughts of them. So, I'm sure they're of Daenerys the Dreamer. So it's not out of step for them to be encouraged to just, you got a gut feeling, just go with it, and it is really a leap of faith. But, what other alternatives does she have? So.
And all of her followers do say yes. Like, that's the important part. They could have walked away at any moment before, the dragons hatched and they all had their minds blown.
Well, she just walked out of a fire. You kind of follow someone after that.
Yeah, this bitch is fireproof.
They already had their leap of faith.
I also thought the bit we get about the tourney at Lannisport was kind of interesting. just naming names. It
Yeah.
all builds up to that like history.
I can't remember when I read it. Did Jorah actually say that he was selling slaves, or did he just say he did something he didn't?
Yeah, he just says.
Wasn't proud of.
Yeah, he just says I did some things that I'm not proud of, and doesn't.
So Daenerys doesn't actually
digress.
know that he was almost a slaver.
No.
Wait, almost a slaver? Didn't he already sell people into slavery?
Yeah, but she
Mm.
doesn't really know that.
But only like 3 of them, so it's not like it doesn't count.
When he did it for love, so it's totally noble.
He was just
Totally.
dabbling.
Yeah, if you saw Linus, you'd be like, I get it.
Okay.
So then the other thing I had in my notes is the city that Aggo says he found with the skulls on the iron spikes. I'm pretty sure I tried looking for it last night, but I really didn't want to read the whole thing. It's mentioned in the World Book when they talk about the Century of Blood and the Dothraki stamping out the Kothi people.
Really?
Yeah.
Aren't those dragon bones? Isn't that Nettles and her dragon sheep stealer?
Yeah, that's the other thing I had in my notes is whose dragon is that?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone's dragon.
Shall we rock and roll on?
Well, this is the first time we see Quaithe. Oh.
Yeah. So, why do we ever know why she's in Karth? Does she have like a summer home there that she just goes there, or why is Quaithe in Karth?
Because of alliteration.
Well, according to Preston Jacobs, she's Dany from the
Jesus
future, so
Christ.
she just knew that she had to be there.
Well, she would have known she was going to be there if she was from the future.
Which, by the way, I did put this in my notes for Varley. This chapter totally tears down his crackpot theory about it, because in his little stupid video about it, he's like, well, they're never seen in the same room together. Like, that's how it could be true. But yeah, she's like,
What? The only time we
Everyone
see
else can
Quaithe is
see
when
her.
Dany's around.
We never see Varley and Preston in the same place together. Maybe it's the same person.
How many of you condemn Jorah? How many of you have sympathy for him?
Define condemn. Like, what am I... Like, I think he should be at the wall? Is that what you're asking? I don't...
Well, no. I mean, if he comes back to Westeros, he will be sent to the wall at best, won't he? Or executed for slavery. Isn't that the punishment?
Not if Dany's still in charge.
yeah, it depends on how he comes back.
Yeah.
The only way he's
true.
coming back is with her.
I would prefer that, if anything, he just loses his titles, because Mage Mormont is the true Lady of Bear Island, and I accept no substitutes.
Yeah.
Mm.
I don't really love him. He's just kind of a weasel, you know. He's
Fair, actually, but
Yeah. He's
Arya's
my least-
weasel. Arya's weasel.
hybrid.
Well, I mean, and I mean, think of everything he's been through and everything. I mean, like, he is like fucked up. Like, I mean, he's been beaten to a pulp. I mean, yeah, he's just, I don't know. I don't see him coming back to Westeros or anything like that. But I don't know. He's my least favorite Mormont for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we're all like prone to do desperate things in desperate times. You know, I've been flat broke before, and for a split second in my mind considered stealing something, you know, but I don't, because it's wrong, and it only means that I'm putting the situation I'm in now upon someone else. And it's I mean, it's not on the level of like Jamie throwing a kid out the window and then having a redemption arc. But at the same time, it kind of is. I mean, you have a moral compass and you choose to follow it or not. And it's so selfish of him to do what he did, and then to even for a second consider or act on Robert's offer to go assassinate fucking Dany and her unborn kid. And then he just happens to like, oh, you look like my, former wife that I became a total prick for. So maybe I won't. Like, it's horrible.
Kind of just reading these chapters in this particular order for this particular episode. So you start with like Arya, who, as I said before, like I now realize is basically in a position of slavery. And then you get to Jon at the wall, which is basically slave labor. So you're caught for stealing a cheese. You can die, or you go to the wall for the rest of your life and give your labor free of charge to the state. which I guess is better than Arya because at least it's for the state rather than some random lord who happens to be in charge. And then you get to this guy who is kind of pitiful in a way because it's so pathetic, his lack of moral compass and his lack of moral fiber, because he makes 2 betrayals, right? He marries this woman, then becomes a slave and then he sort of goes for Dany. So it's kind of, on one hand, I've always been quite sympathetic to Jorah and thought he's just a weak man. He's weak-willed and he has weak moral character. But then when set against these examples of proper slavery, you just think, well, shit, am I letting him get off too lightly in a sense?
His whole thing with becoming a slaver and whatnot too. I mean, like, because he was catching like poachers, right, that were hunting on his lands, and like these were rightfully his people to deal with. So it is a bit of a hypocrisy. Like okay, well, why don't I get a little bit of coin for it instead of just sending him to the wall? And okay, maybe he's doing him a favor because it's not fucking cold wherever they're going. So
I think it's the reason why Ned comes down on him is because they do need people at the wall, and you can't just let people go to slavery. Like, if you start letting lords sell their people into slavery, nobody will ever end up at the wall.
Right.
And it's illegal, and in what world is like Ned gonna let anybody do anything illegal? It's just yeah, I guess that's it. Like, yeah, it's just the rule of law to him. I don't think it meant anything other than like, that guy broke the law, go get him.
It's like Stannis, like, I'm the king because I am, not because I deserve it or I want it, I just am.
Yeah, I don't feel the need to make a lot of excuses for his behavior. It's, I mean, you kind of do feel bad for him. I think he's written that way, but come on,
Yeah, I mean, he feels bad for him because like he just, he just lost the hottest chick ever, and now he's got a chance to be with her again, but she does not want it.
But that's my point, right? I think maybe that's what softened me towards him, because the first time he does this morally really questionable thing, it's basically for love, because he's fallen in love with this woman who's just very expensive to keep. But at the end of the day, it's slavery, right? So, I don't know.
Yeah, but how is he even related to women that breastfeed and beat down Ironborn at the same time? So I don't know. He's just
Right.
he's just bleh.
Well, and like, do you forgive Rhaegar for falling in love with Lyanna and starting a war that costs so much to so many?
No.
No.
Nope.
It's, I mean, to me, one life or a million lives all have equal value.
It all depends on how the whole story shakes down. Like, if prophecies are true and John actually ends up being his kid and everything, and John is the deciding factor that stops the others and whatever, if that all comes true, then yes, it was all worth it. But yeah, if he just wanted to do Lyanna, then yeah, no, he's a horrible person. But like right now the jury's still out.
Yeah.
I don't know as if he knew he was going to start quite the conflict he did. And even after he started the conflict, I don't know how quickly he would have known that there was a conflict.
Well, he was essentially just putting the fate of the kingdom back into the hands of his mentally deranged father and running away with a girl whose brother is renowned for his wolf's blood and the fact that he cannot control his passions, and putting like what was that?
I picture Eris as like Beavis. Fire.
Oh my god.
Nice. Okay. I think on that brilliant note, we should move on to Cat 2, unless anyone's got anything burning to say about Dany 1. And Nope. Okay, on to Cat 2. So basically, Dany 1 takes place on April 22nd, 299, and we get to Cat 2 on May the 1st. So this is actually, although only a few days later, is 9 chapters, or literally 200 pages after Dany 1 in the published order, and actually takes us towards sort of the middle of the book. So, on to Drew for his chapter summary, and I can't say I'm not slightly looking forward to this.
Well, I hope I don't disappoint. All right. Catelyn 2. We start with Catelyn dreaming a beautiful and rather sad dream of all she's fighting for and all she has lost. She's tired of being strong day after arduous day. She yearns for the whole mess be behind her, and she can just be herself just for a moment. But for now, she must be strong. She looks at her hands, recalling the encounter with the Valyrian steel dagger. She'll never be a hand model. Let's see here. She sees through Wendell Manderly's fatness and notes that he loves honor more than food. She passes up the offer to cook up some killer quail breakfast. She's watching her figure. Let's see. She's been sent to parley with Renly because the Great John is cranky and lacks social skills. Okay. It pains her to leave her father alone in his deathbed. She writes Brandon Rickon. She wants to be with him, but Robb needs her more. Her party is intercepted and escorted to Renly's camp by Sir Colin of Greenpools. Don't worry, I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot tourney lance. Wait, I lied. He sounds to be vegan, ill, and a total asshole. Sorry. Renly's host is enormous with ample siege engines, men, and horses. All the power and might of the South and the Reach, and a big fucking flag to boot. She is apprehensive of the sound of steel on steel, then cheering. It's a tourney. She witnesses a big knight in blue kicking ass in the melee. Kat scans the crowd and picks out many familiar faces with her from her father's halls, including Mathis Rowan, Lady Oakheart, and Father of the Year and whore cleanliness advocate Randall Tarley. It's a nice foreshadowing here when she observes King Renly as a ghost in a golden crown. The man knows how to accessorize. We also meet his bride, Marjorie Tyrell. Westerosi Super Smash Brothers continues. The Blue Knight of Tarth faces off against fan favorite, the Knight of Flowers, Loras Tyrell. Much to the crowd's dismay, the big Blue Knight wins, like Metroid Samus writ blue. It's not a man, baby. Brienne asks for Barristan Selmy's safe seat on the King's Guard. It is done. Kat sees the love in Brienne's eyes and pities her. Kat bears witness to Brienne at the happiest she will ever be. She just beat the living shit out of every guy that wronged her in the past. Kat is finally introduced to the court. Renly has obviously been looking at Kat's Amazon wish list and promises to send her Cersei's head. Renly has obviously been looking at Kat's Amazon wish list and promises to send her Cersei's head, a bitch in a box, if you will. Randall Tarley chides Robb for not coming himself. Kat retorts her son is waging war, not playing at one. Lady Catelyn bitch slapper Stark, 1. Randall snatchwasher Tarley, 0. So, with this, Renly gives Kat the use of his own tent. It's at this point that I knew for certain he was gay. He camps like I do, with every creature comfort imaginable, though even I wouldn't think to pack a hot tub. Another foreshadowing during this scene when Kat sees herself reflected in Renly's armor as a drowned woman. Renly's feast follows. George treats us to some food porn. The main course is stuffed capon. For those who don't know, capon is a castrated rooster, the Lord Varys of the food world. During dinner,
Did not know that.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
During dinner, a singer sings of Lannister twats tied in knots. But George never actually says that, but you have to infer that. She observes that Renly is a master at court, a much better party planner than her sister. She notes that he pays more attention to Loras than Marjorie. She also sees that this lot of merry adventurers for what they are, knights of summer who have not tasted the terror of war. Winter is coming to fuck them hard and put them away wet. Winter makes you wince when you sit down.
Jesus.
Renly breaks Brienne's heart and takes Catelyn for a walk. He tells Kat about the time that he offered Ned chance to be regent. She knew that Neddy boy would refuse the order without asking. She's painfully aware that she's married to a tool. They climb the castle tower to look at the cook fires as far as the eye can see. His host is humongous. Kat points out that Renly has overlooked the threat of Stannis. Renly dismisses this. He proposes that Robb join his host and will allow him to remain king of the North in name so long as he has a pledge of fealty. A surprise rider is loud through the gates, and Kat is proven right again. King Stannis has entered the game. That's my summary.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
That was very graphic.
Varley, you're back.
He's back.
I've been reading this Cat chapter and then the ones following where Renly dies, and I'm just struck again and again by the wisdom of Cat that she's just put in this invidious position that she has to treat on behalf of a man and with other men who are stubborn and sticking on titles that are just ridiculous. And she's so observant, she gets everything right in her political analysis and can't do anything about it. So for me, she's Tiresias. She is just condemned to see and understand everything and have no power. I really feel bad for her.
Thank you, Greg.
You know what? This is exactly when I started truly hating Kat because
What?
After Bina gives such a resplendent review
I'm
of
so
how
sorry,
wonderful
Bina.
Kat
No, but this is the
Hannah's
glory
nah,
of
fuck
Vok. This is the glory of Vok. You go for it, Hannah. You tell me. Tell me what I'm missing.
well, here's the deal. She's got her teenage son who's been crowned, and he's straight up not listening to her, taking any of her advice. And then, yeah, she's there to treat with men on behalf of the men and has no real power in the situation. How is it that Bran and Rickon don't need you more? Rickon is a little baby. And as a mother, I would never, fucking
Okay,
ever,
okay,
leave
okay,
my
okay,
little
okay.
kid
I'm gonna stop you right there.
alone
I'm gonna
like
stop.
that.
I'm gonna stop you right there, Drew. Unless you want to come to Cat's defense, but I'm gonna throw in that concept of motherhood that you're referring to is a very modern construct from a very egalitarian society that we currently live in. In those days, well, not even in those days, you look at how Prince Charles was raised by Queen Elizabeth 60, 70 years ago. I mean, that was comparatively recently. And as a royal mother, she would leave him alone for a year and a half when she went on a royal tour abroad, pack him off to boarding school, because there were other competent people she could pay to do what they considered in those days to be the mothering. And she had royal political duties to observe. And I think that's the position Kat's put in. Every single
and how'd that work out for Charles?
every yeah, well, no, but every single chapter. Yeah, but that's the point, that every single chapter that you read of Cat in this book, she starts off by saying, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. I'm here doing this thing for Rob, who doesn't even want me, and yet I should either be with my dying father or with my kids. No one is more aware of the criticism you're making of her and condemns herself more for that than Cat herself. And yet she's put in this invidious position where she has to do this political stuff because her husband's just gone and got himself killed for being too naive. He was meant to be doing all this shit. And so I feel that it's like people condemning Queen Elizabeth II for why did you go on a royal tour for 18 months and leave your son? Those were the times and the duties. And even Princess Diana did that with Prince William. You know, Prince Diana and Prince Charles went to India for a royal tour, didn't take the kids. I remember actually very recently when Catherine Middleton or Princess Kate, Duchess of Cambridge, whatever, took her son Prince George to Australia on a royal tour, and people were kind of condemning her. Like, how could you take your little baby on a royal tour? So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, when you're a mother in these kind of quasi-political roles. So I kind of feel that Cat gets shit, but actually I was exactly in your position, Hannah, when I did my first few rereads of the book. But as I get older and look more at sort of what happens really in society and how women in power are treated who do or don't choose to have children, our current Prime Minister basically was appointed because the lady she was up against, Andrea Leadsom, basically said that because Theresa May didn't have children, she probably had less of a stake in their future. So I just feel that don't criticize Kat, you're perfectly free to do so, but I feel that no one is more aware of the complex position she's put in and her moral failings towards her children back at Winterfell than Cat is. And I think that we get to a later Cat chapter where she prays in a sept, kind of just after this one, where she's thinking of all her children and how she's abandoned them and praying to the mother. And then she has sympathy with Cersei, but do you pray for your children too? And I think to think that she is, when you say she'd never leave her children, that follow-up Cat chapter absolutely tackles this. Sorry, I'll stop now. I know I'm ranting.
No. Yeah, you were much more eloquent than I would be, but with what she kind of fails to be there for Rickon during his formative years, but she left him in the safest place that she knew existed in Winterfell. Basically, if Robb doesn't win, then they're all dead anyway. So she's doing something to protect her children too, even though she can't be there with them. And she's just a tragic character because she sees everything that's going on around her, and she's like, I don't know. I'm surprised her inner monologue isn't just like fuck. It sucks to be Cat.
Here's the thing though, with everything that you said, Bina, the heavier weight there though is the little kids back home at your home, not your grown son who has good people around him that he can trust, and at a certain point you got to cut the cord and let your kids make their own decisions.
No.
Kids.
Okay, Drew, go first, then me.
8-year-old running your household for you. You need to get your ass up there and take care of business. I'm sorry.
But she's got Rickon running Winterfell instead, which he has a competent advisor. He has Maester Luwin there ruling by proxy. So it's not like he won't have proper guidance. But you have Rob here, and he's left with these crazy wild, they're these crazy wild Northerners. Like, he's got Great John there, who's like, yeah, just fuck them all, kill him. And she's got to be there to be the voice of reason, to help guide him in the best way that she can, because she can't trust anyone else to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes, but she knows that he's not going to listen to her anyway. So if you're totally useless in a situation but are truly needed in another, I mean, when I first
But why
read
is
it,
she
I
truly
thought,
needed? Maester Lewin is there, Sir Roderick Cassel is there. As far as she's concerned, she's left her son in more than capable hands, in a very entrenched and safe place. I think that the analogy to draw is actually in a later Cat chapter, I think it's the next one or the one after, when she's talking to Stannis. Says to Stannis, why didn't you just take King's Landing? Why have you come via Storm's End? It's ridiculous. And he says, well, I need the troops to invade King's Landing. That's why I've got to knock out Renly first. And I sort of feel that, yes, Cat could go home and be with her kiddies and be the mother, and that would be great in an ideal, perfect world. But maybe it's better to try and solve the peace, because ultimately she wants to make them safe, but safe in a kind of macro, not a micro sense. And for her son to have a peace treaty with whoever the hell is in charge of the other kingdoms, that's the only way to truly go back home and have her children safe. And at the end of the day, the first thing she says to Stannis when she meets him is my daughters. So it's not a choice between Robb and Bran and Rickon. It's a choice between Robb, Bran and Rickon, and then actually whatever chance she has to get Arya and Sansa back. And so, in a sense, it's 3 against you, because she's got to be politically engaged for that. It doesn't matter if Robb needs her or not. She needs to get the daughters as well. No?
And to be fair, like when I first read it, I did cut her a lot of slack because she does have the Arya Sansa aspect thrown in, where I think, like, flipped out, blew my stack, and lost my patience with her is through all of A Game of Thrones and Clash, leading up until Rickon in Theon in Winterfell and the boys, for all she knows, being dead, is she keeps going, I really should be with my baby. Like, Rickon needs me. He's just a little kid. And then, oh, fuck, I should have been there. They're dead now. I should have been there.
She's the first lady of Winterfell. She's the first lady of Winterfell. That's totally on Robb. She's the first lady of Winterfell before she's a mother. That's the tragic of being a royal woman or an aristocratic woman. It's the tragedy of Her Majesty the Queen. It was the tragedy of Her Royal Highness Princess Diana. Arguably, it's the tragedy of Catherine Middleton, right?
When you're in a royal position like that, it's the family that matters, not the family members. It's the family as a whole.
And as Sarah Lady Weaver has just put in the IM, no matter what, if Robb doesn't win, they're all dead. So I absolutely agree. Your first duty is to help Robb, whether or not he wants it, whether or not he heeds your advice. Because actually, if Robb had heeded her advice of not sending Theon off to Balon, then her sons to this day would have been safe in Winterfell. Kat's not wrong. The tragedy of Cat is that she plays her part exactly as written. She does exactly the duty up until the point where she fucking frees Jaime when she's absolutely at wit's end. And no one else is kind of playing their parts.
Now we get to why Bina likes her so much. She freed Jaime. That makes sense now.
It wasn't her part or place to take Tyrion. It's Robb point blank tells her, it's not your place to be here on my war council or tell me what to do, mother. I don't need you anymore. Now, whether that's prudent of him or not, it's all about, her actions. And again, she's the lady of Winterfell, not the Riverlands, not fucking Riverrun, Winterfell. You need to be where you need to be. And it's not the same as going on a royal progress. She's not royal.
And actually, Robb's wrong. Well, she is royal because she's the Queen Mother at this point. So she absolutely is
right.
Royal. But why should she not be in the royal? I think Robb is wrong. Look at the position of power that the Queen of Thorns have. Look at the position of power of lots of other women in Westeros. I mean, I think that's completely spurious. Robb, we can get to Robb, and I know someone on their WordPress page criticized the Robb hate on the last episode, but
they're not going to find any relief here.
I want to get to it. It's a shame he doesn't ever have a POV, because I don't think we ever give the time and space to discuss Robb. And I was actually thinking that at the end of our Clash of Kings reread, before we enter into Storm of Thorns, we should just do an episode where we need to talk about Robb.
Like,
I've got
okay, so your argument is, well, she left them in capable hands and with totally trusted people who are family to them, but she didn't trust him enough to take the knife to King's Landing and talk to Ned. So which one is it? You implicitly trust them with the lives of your children, or you don't? She should have been there. He left her there for a reason, to stay with those kids.
A one-on-one with Ned was needed because it was above everyone else's pay grade. Like when the I don't know.
All right.
This part. Go ahead.
So say Kat immediately just goes back to Winterfell and lets Robb do everything else. Robb then, without anyone even telling him that it's a bad idea to send Theon, sends Theon to the Iron Islands. Theon comes back, takes Winterfell. Now the Ironborn have 3 noble hostages as compared to the 2 previously.
No, I don't think Theon takes Winterfell if Kat is there.
I think that makes no difference. What's Kat going to do that no one else did, please?
Yeah, because I don't see, how would Kat prevent Theon from sneaking in the middle of the night to a poorly guarded, castle?
It wouldn't be poorly guarded, though. She wouldn't send the last of the reserve forces out because she's a cautious person. She's not Ned.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Now
The other thing is, when I'm at work, I'm not the supervisor. And when my supervisor's not around, I try to do things as best as I think my boss wants them done. But ultimately, I know that I'm not him and I can't make the best decisions. And for them to send out, they already know their household guard's been diminished and no one's coming back to save them. How competent of people are we dealing with? An 8-year-old and an old man who is a maester. What does he know about defending a place? They are not making good choices for the boss. And if the boss was there, I think other choices would be made.
I mean, we should probably move on the grounds that we're probably not going to agree on.
Yeah. I do have one little point I want to make. Is that had Robb not sent Kat away, she would have been there to stop the whole Red Wedding from happening, because he would have never knocked up what's her fucking face, because she would have been there to slap some fucking sense into him and not let him do whatever he wants because he's the king.
Yeah, I mean, actually, given the fact that the entire fate of the Stark clan depends on Robb winning, I would say that rather than going to Bran or Rickon, or to Sansa or Arya, or to Renly, or to anybody else, Kat should have stuck herself by Robb's side, despite his groaning and moaning and trying to banish her, and just made sure that he did not fuck up, which he does.
Yep, right.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely appreciate your guys' perspective on her and, forgiving nature toward her, and I totally see your point. It's not that I don't. I think where it is for me is that I would make different decisions, and I think they're better. And obviously, I don't know because, George R. R. Martin's not writing my life. But I just think, my best judgment, I would have done things a lot differently than she did. And the annoying part that sticks in my craw about it is that she weighs all the options and she knows. I mean, in her internal monologue, she knows she's not even probably doing the best thing.
Well, I think that's a bit unfair. But anyway, let's agree.
Making her do it.
Let's agree to disagree, because I think we've done a good amount of time on this. And I think, listeners, if you agree or disagree with either side or have a third other opinion, feel free to chip on the boards, because I think that's part of the joy of the rereads. It's all these different interpretations of the characters and their motivations, and especially with Kat in capturing Tyrion and then freeing Jaime, lots of counterfactual history. Anything else on this chapter that isn't about Kat's decision to not be with her kids? Anything on Bitter Bridge or Renly?
I'm just saying.
Fucking Brienne Tarth, my girl.
Yes.
Ooh-ha.
I love her so much.
Yeah.
It's the only good thing Kat brings to the table.
I'm surprised Brandel Tarley was there.
Well, I mean, he is commander in the Riverlands, so it makes sense, right?
I'm pretty sure that the entire time this tourney is going on, he is just super pissed that they're not actually doing shit.
Well, see, that's what I wanted. This may be a bit crackpotty, but so I don't know if he just thinks it's too futile to go against Mace, since if Mace has already decided to join up with Renly, because he's pretty sort of like Stannis. He's pretty I guess the law is the law. He was a Targaryen supporter, and he's such a good military commander that he has to recognize Renly is just like the flashy, showy guy. Stannis is probably his military close to equal and has the actual claim, so it's just surprising that he did that unless it's some type of super secret plan to get Renly there because he would be easier to overthrow with Aegon.
Well,
That's
I think
crackpot.
I think it's kind of with the idea that what's he really gonna do? Declare for Stannis when all the other Reach lords have declared for Renly? I mean, the best thing he can do is just follow his liege lord, and then if his liege lord fucks up, he just goes, "Well, I was just following the orders of my liege lord," basically.
Well, and Renly's claim is just as strong as Robert's was.
Yeah.
Yeah, in a way,
Chance, was that you saying about him being a Targ loyalist?
Yeah, he was a Targ loyalist.
He was the only one that beat Robert during the rebellion, and Mace took the thing.
Right.
And
is your theory that
everyone
he's
thinks
like
he's
a
a
double agent or like a spy?
Well, I mean, I'm aware of the theory that he's when the Golden Company and like Dance of the Dragons talks about way ahead of the time. They say that they still have friends in the Reach. Like a lot of people think it's Randall Tarley because of the way he talks in the small council meeting in the Dance with Dragons. So I was wondering if it's like this far back that they're planning. Like, I wonder if it's crackpot. Like the only reason he's actively supporting Renly is because Renly would be easier to overthrow with a Targaryen than Stannis would if Stannis had the throne.
So do we also assume at this point, like Doran Martell knows about young Griff and all that?
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Not young Griff.
Not young Griff.
He knows about Daenerys, but not young Griff.
Not Johnny Cons and all that.
No, I don't think anybody knows about that.
I think it's just the Blackfire supporters who really know about John Con and young Griff.
I'm not sure George R. R. Martin knew at the time of writing this stuff, right?
Because that would be the only thing that tears it down for me is like, why would Randall Tarley know before Doran?
Oh, I think that it's like been in the way. That depends on whether like we find out how much Varys has been working with the other lords. Because like if the Golden Company has friends in the Reach still, what's the point of having those friends in the Reach and establishing that for so long if they haven't been planning something for a while? Not the Golden Company. I don't know. It just seemed weird to me.
Or maybe we're all just reading into this a bit too much.
No.
No shit.
Oh, I had a little thought on Brienne that I had written in my summary that I left out just because it felt like a bit of a non sequitur, but unrequited love sucks dick. Being ugly sucks a bag of dicks. Being an ugly woman sucks the biggest bag of dicks imaginable. And being an ugly woman in love with a gay guy that can bite an apple through a picket fence, there will be no dick sucking, no way, no how. So
that was a lot of dicks, man.
My God.
Well, it's Renly, so there's going to be a fair amount of dick sucking.
Right.
Did anyone have kind of a comparative sort of flashback to when they're at Tower of Joy with this meeting on Bitterbridge? Like at Tower of Joy, they say, we looked for you on the Trident and you weren't there. And kind of when they show up at Bitterbridge, they're all sort of chiding each other for this and that. It seemed like a really similar tone to me, that meetup.
Not really. I just kind of see how, like, whenever there's some sort of battle and, like, a specific lord isn't there, the lord is often chided for not, like, the phrase, late Walder Frey, he becomes renowned as. It just kind of gets down to the fact that the Starks are actually fighting while Renly's just taking his good old time and having tourneys at every damn castle.
Yeah.
Cool.
Also, I think I would be a Knight of Summer because I would love to just be pompous and look important and then just not do anything.
You gonna fight soon?
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there.
You just want a pet monkey.
I think that Kat being exhausted from the weight of her responsibilities and is tired of trying to be a strong figurehead, if you go back to the Dany chapter we just did, there's a great comparison between the two women. Dany is coming into her power and is only starting to be a strong ruler, while Kat's influence is waning. Both of these women feel under pressure to appear strong for their people and ignore their own personal feelings. I think it's a really, really great comparison by George between the two.
Yeah, I completely agree. And sort of, so, without getting back into that debate, how do you feel about her choices at this point in this chapter to not be back with Bran and Rickon?
I think that her choices, it'd suck for any parent, like anyone, to want to be with family and then you feel that you have to be with someone else, even though they might be your child, that you have to be there to try to help them, even though you would much rather be with your other children and trying to help and raise them. So personally, I think with Kat, in my opinion, that she is only with Rob because she's trying to make sure all of her children are safe, because Arya and Sansa are still, as far as she is aware, under Lannister control, and Rob is fighting a war that if they do lose, all of her children will probably die. So I think she's thinking of it in that perspective, even though she would much rather be with her other children.
Yeah. Oh, it's just heartbreaking. Really is. Thank you, Sarah. That was cool. Okay, so let's finally move on to Tyrion 6, I think. So basically, Cat 2 is on May the 1st. We then move to Tyrion 6 on May 5th. This is just 4 chapters after Cat 2, so kind of fairly close in the reread. And over to Chance with his chapter summary.
Alrighty, here we go. Okay, so Tyrion continues to caper about King's Landing as the acting hand. Looking to speak to Cersei, Tyrion is surprised to find his cousin Lancel singing to her, also letting the reader know that the only thing that makes repetitive and diverse incest even creepier is adding a harp. Cersei reveals that step 1 of her "fuck those dudes" master plan in dealing with members of the faith. Tyrion informs her that that's all well and good, but Stannis has sailed from Dragonstone, and we see Cersei for the first time truly freak out, showing that she has an actual and healthy fear of Stannis. He reveals Stannis and Renly have taken up arms against each other, all but ensuring a Lannister victory. The siblings embrace and share a hearty laugh, bonding over the only thing they have in common, Schadenfreude. Tyrion, even for a moment, sees the lioness in her that Jaime sees. Quickly throwing that lovely moment out the window, Tyrion poisons her, deciding that he would be better served at court tomorrow if Cersei was shitting her brains out all day instead. Cut to the throne room where many matters are to be resolved. We see many people in the court, including the soon-to-be mysteriously missing Tyrek Lannister, known as the Wet Nurse. Enter the most tragic character in the series, Cleos Frey. He has come as a noble prisoner of the young wolf to offer terms of peace. Tyrion quickly tells him that pretty much all of those demands ain't happening and gives them new terms to Cleos. Cleos, knowing that none of this shit is going to go his way, tries to reason with Tyrion, but of course gets shut down. Cleos must now travel all the way back to the Riverland and tell Robb, sorry, here's some bones at least, and resume his captivity. Tyrion, in another expert move, completely hacks off another chunk of Cersei's support group and sends a large honor guard to escort Cleos back to the Riverlands. Alistair Thorne, tired of waiting, now shoves his way to the front and demands to be heard. Thorne tells the story of finding Rangers who zombied up and tried to kill the Lord Commander when brought back across the wall. As one might expect, no one believes him, but Tyrion is uneasy about the matter despite his cynicism. Tyrion, because he is seated on the Iron Throne, starts to remember Jon and the view from the top of the wall. He gives Thorne 100 shovels and a few prisoners to appease him, but still, Thorne waits for Tyrion so he can confront him in the throne room. After a weird shoving match between Preston Greenfield and Thorne is finally sent away. Littlefinger reminds Tyrion after the court session that he knows exactly what just went down in the court and read all of the moves perfectly. He also warns Tyrion about involving him in further plots like the Myrcella lie, which turns out to be the only time Baelish gives a thinly veiled touche to anyone. Tyrion goes on to find his Stormcrows and feasts with them. He abstains from wine, knowing that some real head-cracking is about to go down. Shagga proceeds to kick in Pycelle's door like a Teamster member, and they hear a woman scream. The whore, knowing that the only thing worse than fucking the old Maester Pycelle is having to have people find out about it, screams and causes a general ruckus. Pycelle, terrified, tries to throw everyone and their mother under the carriage and gives every possible excuse imaginable. Tyrion demands that Shagga bring him Pycelle's member and feed it to a goat that may or may not be present. Pycelle pisses himself here and there as Tyrion continues to intimidate the lying old man. Pycelle continues to plead so much that he admits to convincing Aerys to raise the gates to Tywin. This takes Tyrion back as he realizes Pycelle has betrayed pretty much anyone ever. The Maester continues to admit to things that have nothing to do with his present circumstance, conveniently giving the reader information that we'd never had before involving Jon Arryn and Robert Baratheon's deaths. Tyrion thanks him, takes his beard and a few potions from his apothecary, and sends him to the Black Cells. All in all, not a bad day for the dwarf. That's all I got.
Very nicely done, because that's like a stupidly long chapter with like shitloads going on in it. And yeah, that was a really good summary. Well done.
My note for this chapter is that Jaime isn't the only Lannister that knows how to fuck his sister. Just a different way.
I thought it was surprising how much she freaked out about Stannis. She really starts going into like, oh shit mode. Like you can see that she's actually kind of like she has a healthy respect, like in a very fearful way of Stannis.
Well, she doesn't have an army. All she has is gold cloaks right now. I can see why she'd be worried.
Yeah, that's also true.
In the chapter, Tyrion tells Cersei that Renly and Stannis are two alike and two different, and neither can stomach the other, which is why they won't ally together and why they have infighting between the Baratheons. So this actually really applies to Cersei and Tyrion because they both think they're the smartest person in the room. They both love their wine way too much and rely on gold to achieve their wants and desires. And they also both wish they could be what they think of as the perfect male specimen. In other words, that they can both be Jaime and they'd both have power that way.
Tyrion and Cersei are a lot alike.
I thought it was interesting we see the first step of Cersei fucking up with people in the faith, where when Tyrion first comes in, she thinks he's there to gripe about putting all the begging brothers in a cell. He's like, no, I'm not talking about that. And like, it goes away immediately. But if you pay attention, like that's the first sign that she's already starting to screw that up.
Yeah, he just stops her for a little while and gives her the shits.
Anything else on the chapter? It's super long. Well, maybe there isn't. I don't know.
It's really long, but not as complicated to talk about, really.
Yeah, because it's just shit happens.
I was just going to say that, this is more proof that Peter is believing his own lies for telling him for so long. I honestly think that he really does believe what he's saying when he thinks that he banged Cat.
Yeah, but as I said last time, I think he actually does think that. I don't think it's a lie that he's come to believe. I think he genuinely thinks he did bang Cat. So
I thought it was weird he kind of acknowledged to Tyrion that he got him, like, about trying to figure out who he was getting lied to by.
Oh, a little tip of the hat kind of thing?
Yeah, it's like the only time he even acknowledges that anyone mildly gets him. It's like, oh yeah, you got me with the whole Marcella marrying John Aaron or Robert Aaron thing. Good job on that one. Don't do it again. That's like the only time we see that happen.
You little fingered me.
Hey-o!
Okay, so with Pycelle, he says that he killed John Aaron, or that he didn't kill him, that he just stopped the treatment that would save him because he got a look from Cersei. If you think about it, Jaime in the first Bran chapter, yeah, he stopped the other maester. Jaime in the first Bran chapter actually pushes Bran out the window after a look from Cersei. So it's just like, Cersei, what are you doing to these poor men? Do you have, like, special eyes that make people kill people, or what? I just thought it was interesting because I think the chapter when Jaime pushes Bran out the window is very interesting because I don't think it's really Jaime wanting to do it. I think it's more he does it for Cersei and thinks that's what Cersei wants him to do.
I don't think it's as involved in that. I think it's just more he is kind of, I don't know, things I do for love, shove him out. I just think he's just so in such a weird headspace that other people outside of his love, outside of him and Cersei, just don't really exist in a way and don't matter. It's quite nihilistic, and so it's just almost automatic in a sense. But yeah, interesting point there. Anyone else?
In the Bran chapter, sorry, he actually stops Bran from falling though, because he grabs him and pulls him in because he was actually falling a bit, and then he pushes him out again after a look from Cersei.
Yeah, that's after Cersei's like, "Oh, he saw us," and then Jaime's like, "All right,
Fuck.
see if this baby can fly."
Yeah. Push the peeper.
Like I think Kelvin said, he was snooping.
Jamie's just so frustrated because he was about to get off, so he's like, well, somebody's getting off. You're getting off this window ledge.
Jeez.
Nice.
I thought it was kind of creepy. Like, Tyrion notices when she says, what was it? Oh, may they have a long, healthy battle, and may the others take them both. He's like, is this what Jaime sees when he looks at Cersei? Like, anytime any of the Lannister, like, 3 siblings have positive thoughts about the other one, it's always like in context to something about their father, and it's really weird. Like it's exactly something Tywin would say, and that's what Tyrion liked about Cersei saying it.
Well, this is the one where they're. Are they celebrating because they're because Renly and Stannis are fighting, or is that the previous one?
That's this one.
Yeah,
that is this one. I mean, like, it is kind of cool that like Cersei can drop the "I fucking hate you for killing my mom" thing for a second, and play. Basically, I just picture her whirling him around the room with his legs up in the air, like spinning, like yay! Cersei merry-go-round.
Okay. Anything else on Tyrion 6? No?
Guess not.
Talk Tower. I think that's the problem when you have these cat debates. They kind of just suck out the energy from everything else in the chapter.
We spent our bot on cat. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, dear. Never mind. I think that's fine. It's good.
Every single one of those chapters is like the definition of a setup chapter too. So it's like that's all like just stuff happens. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, exactly. Which is fine. I think we're getting to some quite fun episodes of the reread coming up with major shit going down. So this is kind of like leaving us on the brink of all that. So that leaves me to thank my guests. But before we do that, let's have some announcements at the end of the podcast. So the next episode, 21 of the reread, which is basically Theon preparing for war. Lots of stuff going on, actually. Chiswick dying, Cersei being poisoned by Tyrion.
Spoilers, Bina. God.
I know. It's like it's all going down. That's going to be hosted by Casey, aka Blue Eye Queen. Just recording in a couple of weeks' time, so that's going to be good. If you want to read ahead at home, the chapters are Tyrion 7, Theon 2, Dany 2, Bran 4, and Arya 7. If you want to get involved in the discussion and the Catbait 2016, you can. We're to be found on the forums of a podcast, Device and Fire, APOIAF. Just search for that on Google, you'll find us. You can also find VOK Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, WordPress, YouTube. Has anyone got any forthcoming podcasts they want to pimp out?
I don't know if this is too far ahead, but in August, I'm going to be doing a kind of game show-esque podcast on all things Tolkien. If anyone is interested...
all things Tolkien or all things Middle-earth?
All right, I guess I should say Middle-earth, because we're not going into Tolkien's life and stuff, but if anyone's interested in that... I think I so far have like 4 competitors, and we could do with maybe 2 more. But yeah, it should be a fun night.
Nice. I'm glad to see that Whiteraven's keeping it pedantic.
I'm hoping so.
Hannah?
Peep show.
Let's make like Pops88 has been trying to make Peep Show happen for a while, and as far as he can't actually record or edit or set it up, but he wants it to happen and wants to be on it. So we should do this, right? We should make it happen. So from my perspective, I think it's just there's a few more reread episodes. Lawrence of Arabia book didn't happen because Avery, Bean, and Archibald, if you still want to be on that, let me and FT Ward know and tell us your Skype names and whatnot, because we were ready to record and you guys weren't on and you seemed so excited to be on, so we thought we'd like wait until you guys got in contact, and plus we can read more books and get deeper and deeper into the myth of Lawrence of Arabia. And then also, Varley, can you just decide what we're doing for VOK Sicko Serial Killer thread? Because this has been going on for months now. And we're all too just fucking polite to actually, like, FT Ward and I would be like, oh, we don't mind, just do what the others want to do. And everyone keeps saying that. We're like, if you ever watch the Jungle Book movie, the Disney animation, where there are these buzzards, and they're like, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? And that's like what we've been doing for 6 months. So can someone fucking pick a serial killer, or I'm actually going to become a serial killer and kill everyone out of frustration.
Bina, you can pick one, right?
Yeah.
Right. You have the power to end this.
But I feel that would be very controlling.
If you want to do a woman and you want to do something where no one around it would be alive anymore, I think it's like from the 16th or 17th century. That woman somewhere over in the UK, she like bathed in the blood of these like servant girls, an orphanage she ran or whatever.
Oh,
no, I think we're thinking of 2 different people now, because she didn't run an orphanage. The one that I'm thinking of was a countess that basically just was peasant girls.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, Elizabeth Bathory.
Yeah, that's what it is. I think we touched base on either H.H. Holmes or the Black Dahlia about her, because I remember saying like she only really got into shit when she started killing aristocrats, like kids, and then even then she was put in house arrest.
Let's just make the decision to do her, because she's awesome, and I think that it's going to bring up lots of awesome stuff about which types of victims people actually care about, and sort of killing peasants versus killing aristos, and I think and female power, and she's linked to the whole Dracula legends as well.
I mean, who are these small folk anyway?
Yeah, exactly.
Hungry. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do her and then let's plan on a date.
Yeah.
And get T-Word on board.
Yeah, we'll just need to read books because I've never read a book on her, but I'd love to. Okay, my God, we made a decision. Fuck yeah. Awesome balls.
It only took 2 months.
I was going to say, too, I'm going to organize a Kill Bill rewatch, too, eventually.
Yes.
So anyone who's...
Am I the only one that hates that movie?
Yes.
Yes, probably.
I don't like the first one, but I like the second one.
Thanks, everyone, for joining. I hope to see you next time on the ReRead. Thank you to Paul, Brett, Drew, Hannah, Chance, Amber, Sarah, and Varley. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.